Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and if you're tuning in today I'm going to be doing a psychic reading on the spooky, the haunted Magnolia Plantation. And for those of you that are not aware of where the Magnolia Plantation is, it is located in South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, Charleston, South Carolina. Now, originally the plantation itself dates back to the 1600s, and it was originally it dates back to when Thomas and Anne Drayton, or Anna Fox, built a house in a small formal garden on the site. So this is before it became a plantation. But the plantation remains under control of the Drayton family after 15 generations. Some of the enslaved people that were brought to the property actually were they were coming from Barbados. They would get them, and the historic Drayton Hall was built in 1738 by John Drayton, father of Judge John Drayton Jr., and on an adjoining property. In Magnolia was originally a rice plantation. Extensive works of dams and dikes built in the fields along the river for irrigating land for rice cultivation. African slaves from rice-growing regions created the works. As time went on, these slaves developed a creolized Gullah language and vibrant culture, strongly influenced by their West African culture. Alright, so that's just giving you the little gist of the actual place itself, because I know that a lot of you may have never heard of the Magnolia Plantation. Okay, so I feel like when you look at the text and stuff that's on the internet, on Wikipedia and stuff like that, it never talks about what really happened there, like what happened to the slaves. And that's where I come in. That's where the psychic medium comes in, and I actually have already shuffled the cards, and I got here, and I'm just going to tune in from spirit. And when before I was doing this reading, like 2 or 3 hours before, I was already starting to connect, and I connected with an African American older male. Now this male would have been in his, I want to say, late 60s. I don't think it was like 70s. In what he looked like he was an older African male. He had a white beard, but he also had white hair, and he had a straw hat on, and he was dressed in very kind of tattered clothing. And I don't know, but I feel like he was tied to the plantation. He was one of the main head African slaves that were brought from the Barbados, obviously, or from other places. I think also they came from Africa. But when you look at the stuff that's put out there, they make this place look very lavish. They have weddings up to date, and it's like they make money to have people that want to come and visit the plantation and look at the museum, because that's what it mainly serves at now. Serves its purpose as kind of like that. And a lot of people have done paranormal investigations there on that actual plantation. So I've never been on the plantation, but I can tap into energies just by looking at a photo. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at the actual photo itself, so I can get some energy from it. I'm looking at the Drayton Hall itself, and I believe this would be on, if I'm not mistaken, the Drayton Hall. I look at it, and let me see if I can get a picture here for you guys, so that way you can see it. This is a picture from about 1890. I don't know if you can see that. But let me tell you, when I look at the photo, I saw this older man, and he kept telling me the hanging tree, and he kept pointing his finger. So there was a tree there on the property. I don't know if it was in the back of this hall, on the back of these halls or homes that were constructed on the property, but there was a tree that was used to hang slaves that were deemed, rebellious or whatever, because these people were kind of crazy at the time. Now, these are the things that people are not going to say or going to talk about, and maybe some will. I don't feel like the general energy around this land and property where that slaves were treated the best. I do feel like they had a lot of suffering. There was a lot of hardships, hot weather, being out there and being, basically having slave drivers and people on their backs always, kind of, tell them they need to do this, they need to hurry up, being demeaned. This is what the old man was telling me, that a lot of these souls were actually demeaned. They were cussed at, they were belittled, they were made to feel very inferior. And it's almost like they got their jollies if they were having a bad day. These people that were the heads of this plantation, the people that would be the heads, I don't know what you call them, out there making sure that the crops are tended to in the fields and all of that. So they had a very difficult life. There was a lot of people that died on that property and that were buried on that property. Somewhere on that big, expansive property, a lot of slaves' bodies were actually buried there, is what I feel and what I see. I feel like every generation of this family that has taken over this, property and stuff, they've kept it in the generations and the families and stuff. But the stories that were told and passed down were changed, is what I'm getting. So again, a lot of the stories, this is what the older man that is with me in spirit form is telling me. He's saying that a lot of the stories that were passed down, that a lot of the current generations that are living still think that, are accurate or not accurate. There was a lot of information that was hidden, a lot of lies that was passed down. And so the truth is what I'm going to give you. I do feel when they first started off, this would have been the Drayton family. The older guy, I feel like he was a very serious person. He wasn't very happy. I don't feel like he had his heart fully invested there. I did pick up that he would have had some problems with alcoholism back in that time, like self-medicating through alcohol. And I get his wife was very much the one that kind of kept more of an eye on the house, and it was like her castle. That's how the older man is, this African slave that is the older man that's communicating with me. I keep hearing, I asked him what his name was, and he keeps telling me Herbert. So I don't know if Herbert was like a nickname that was given to him, but I kept hearing Herbert, which is very, very weird, but I kept hearing Herbert. And he kept telling me that the lady of the house was the one that was like very much more vocal, but the guy, the John, whoever, he wasn't very vocal. He let her make a lot of the decisions, and I don't feel like their marriage was necessarily the perfect marriage. There was a lot of infidelity on his part. He was very greedy. I get there was a lot of greed, and it was all about making the buck rather than the lives. And they had this mentality about the slaves that they could easily be replaced. So if one died, the other one could be replaced. It's a very savage mentality. It's a very almost like an expendable type of mentality that these people had. And so on the land itself, this Herbert is telling me that a lot of this happened, and the guy, John, whoever, had the infidelity. He was not happy with being there. He wanted to leave the plantation, but he knew that he couldn't because he did not want to risk the fortune. They made a lot of money off of these plantations and off of having slaves. And in that time, if you're not familiar with it, it was like if you looked at another person that had a plantation close by, or somebody of society, the guys would have jokes, and it's very sick, where this is coming from Herbert, the slave. He's telling me that back then, a lot of these guys that were white, masters or whatever you want to call them, owners of these plantations, they would all get together and have like a society type of like gossip session for men. And they would basically boast about having who had the most slaves and who was more in control. So they had this kind of like gossip session, and it kind of was like a measure of where you stood in society, depending on how many slaves you had. He was always looking for other things. I do feel like there was a lot of slaves out there that were plotting to kill them. They were very, very angry. There was an uprising, and some of these slaves would have been shot or hurt in another manner. But I get that, and I do get that there was some kind of loss that the lady on the property had. So I don't know if what was her name again? It was Anne Fox. What is her name? The one on that property, the first place. I don't know. It was one of them. One of the main families. They're telling me though that one of the ladies there that was ruling with her husband, that she had lost. So I don't know if she had a miscarriage of a child, but I kept getting that there was a deep loss that was experienced by her, and she lost other family members. I feel like she would have lost like a parent while being on this plantation, and she also was looking towards having her own affair. So he had his affair, she had her affair with another guy that was much younger than him, that was more prominent, and she was younger than him, if I'm not mistaken, is what they're telling me, and what Herbert is telling me. And again, there was just so many secrets that they had, possibly having even a pregnancy that was not of the husband that she was married to, but some other person that she hooked up with. So again, there was a lot of this things that were hidden. Now they keep talking about the river. So he's talking about the river, and he's showing me that there was bodies that were dragged and thrown into the river, or into the whatever water system is close by this Magnolia Plantation. Again, because I've never been to it, I don't know anything about it, but all I know is that there is a body of water close by, and they would have thrown some of the bodies in there. Some of them they buried, and some of them they just burned. And I do feel like she wanted to get away from this. She wanted to get away with it, but she was also obsessed with power. And so it was like when they went from poor to more richness over the generations, the families, it almost created a generational curse on the Drayton family. And I feel like a lot of them are plagued by the slaves that are on the property itself. I do get that anyone that would be visiting the property now, as of now, they would be experiencing cold spots. Some of them could get touched. Some of them may actually get scratched or physically hurt when you're out around the hall or out onto the plantation, actual plantation fields in that area, again, in the property itself. The spirits that are there are not happy. They really are not happy, and they haven't moved on because there was so much evil that was done to them, so much injustice that was done to them on this plantation, that they have not moved on. A lot of them haven't. Secrets as well. Things were buried. Money was buried on the property underneath the plantation house. This house, this plantation, or this hall, whatever, the hall on it, that house, I call it the haunted house. It has some kind of hidden under the floorboards. I don't know if some of the family over time, when the actual home was reconstructed, if they found money or found articles, but there was things. This Herbert is telling me that there was things like money, photographs, and stuff stuck under the floorboards, and then there was like a secret crevice, and then there was also money buried in the ground. This is something that a lot of them actually did back then. I don't know if this was like a safe place, but there was actually money buried in the ground by one of the owners of this plantation. I don't know which generation it would be. And again, when I'm talking about these women and couple, I don't know exactly what generation. It may not even be Anne. And the first people from the 1600s or so that got it. It could be a few other generations down the line that were on the plantation back in the 1800s, etc. But I feel like this is more of the 1800s. But I do get that there was a lot of lies, and I get that the children were not happy. The children that they would have had on this plantation were not happy. A lot of them were kind of like cursed by the African magic and the things that the Africans brought, the customs they brought from them, like from Barbados, etc. There's a reference to Haitian, so I'm not sure what magic Barbados works with, if it was Haitian or voodoo, but there was definitely influences of that they learned from other people that were not from Barbados, that were actually brought over from Africa on ships, is what I'm getting. So there was a lot of people that were not coming just from Barbados. There was a lot of other people, and there was a lot of the slaves that tried to actually escape, and at least two of them were shot in the process and killed, basically killed, um, because I heard the shot like a shotgun, like a gun. Um, I don't think it was a gun. It was like a rifle, shotgun, but it was a tool. It was one of those weapons used. Um, for that. There was a lot of communication and gossip going on. A lot of slaves were hiding other runaways there on the plantation. I don't know if they had a slave quarters or they just had like because they keep showing me what is so funny here, and I don't know what this means. They show me like a wooded area far, like maybe like a mile or two away from it, that they would have built a separate house that maybe the plantation owners didn't know. So I don't know what this means, but it's almost like they show me like there was a hidden place out in the woods or somewhere out there in the fields. So it wasn't in the fields. It had to be like more in a wooded area. I don't know, where they would be able to. They had their own like little house or hid a place where a lot of slaves that were runaways were actually hiding. There was a lot of disease, a lot of hunger, a lot of disease. These slaves were malnutrition. They were not treated, the best. And I feel like the family carries a lot of that shame. And so the family right now, that those generations of the Draytons that would be alive right now, I feel like they are definitely experiencing, a lot of crap in their life. If not already, it's something that it's like, and when I say crap, it would be things like, problems with the reproductive system, miscarriages, children dying at an early age, cancer in the family, because they keep telling me, Herbert keeps telling me, is that the pain that they inflicted onto many of their family members, the slaves that have families and whatnot, a lot of that, it created like a curse in so many ways for the family itself. And I spoke about this before on the Salem Witch Trials, which I need to do a second reading on that. But I do not get that this plantation, even though it looks beautiful and now, looks really great, there's been a lot of cleansing, spiritual psychics that have come in, mediums that have come in and done cleansings and set up protection around the home and stuff. Don't be fooled by the beauty of it, because the spirit world is very, very real. And I get that they're just not happy at all with anyone filming or being there. I don't know if there was ever a fire on the home as well, but I kept feeling and hearing Herbert say that a lot of them have tried to cause that to happen, to burn it down, because they want no one on the property. They don't want visitors. They want it basically for themselves. But again, people are not honoring the request of these slaves that actually, built the richness and stuff that these families profited from back then, which is a very touchy subject. It's a very painful subject, but don't be fooled by the glamour and the beauty that you see of the plantation today if you do go visit it, etc. Keep in mind that it is very, very haunted. They don't care if you're African American or you're Asian, you're Hispanic, you're Spanish, or you're white. Anyone that is on that property is going to be targeted. Because they don't want new people on. That's what I get. And so, yeah, it's really, really bad. The energy is mixed. Not everybody that is a sensitive may feel the same things while they're there, but there's definitely an ominous feeling, a very eerie feeling like you're being watched, because I'm tuning into it, and Herbert is kind of communicating with me, and he's telling me that he actually died from, like, he keeps talking about like a coughing up blood, so he would have had something with his lungs, is what he makes me feel, along with other health issues that contributed to his passing. So it could have been like tuberculosis, something like this. But he was one of the older ones that was on the plantation, and he was very, very wise. So I know that typically they used a lot of younger people, is what he's saying. They used a lot of younger people, but he was one of the ones that was like the hardest worker and very strong. So he died in his 60s, is what I'm saying. And I feel like maybe one of the family members did kind of like elevate his position a little bit, you know, his, I guess, like seniority or whatnot, but um, I don't feel like up to his, like, the ending of his age, he actually served on the plantation. I feel like he was sold or exchanged and then went off to be somewhere else, like kind of being more of like tending to the gardens and stuff like that. So, yeah, a lot of secrets on in this family, um, a lot of corruption within the family itself, having affairs with other family members, incest basically, is something that they are talking about, that Herbert is talking about in my spirit guide. So yeah, there's just so much secrets and perversion and things that were covered up, and I do feel like um, there was just so much greediness and so much other things that went on that I can't really say on here because, again, it would be very disrespectful. But it definitely did happen, and they're not happy. And I do suspect that if, you know, that plantation is going to, you know, those houses that are on the plantation itself, if they're still standing now, I feel like down the road, again, there may be some kind of thing that they need to look out for. Because, again, I feel like the people, the souls that are there, trapped there, they want to cause like damage to the property, to the homes that are still there, like the museums, I guess, what you call them. So this is the reading on the Magnolia Plantation. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And thank you so much for being here, for your support. I love you guys. Bye.